This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author U and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, once again, we have been trying to feature a lot of the amazing exhibitors and experts that we've had the pleasure to work with, not only at the Author U Extravaganza, but with some of our clients in rolling out their books. And one of them will be with me today, and one of them we'll be talking about, this one will be talking really about a thing that every author wants, but there is this huge fear factor of how do I go about doing it? What are the key ingredients in doing it? And how in the heck do I have any measurement to it? And how long is it going to take? And what we're doing is talking about publicity. So with me is Julie Schoerke, and Julie is the brains, the visionary behind JKS Communications. They are a literary publicity firm. She and her company, and she has several people that she works with, they specialize in really developing winning book publicity campaigns that are integrated both with traditional and using the new media for authors and publishers, and how to really create a total comprehensive package for you. The hallmark of her company is creating campaigns that fit the lifestyle of the author, which is crucial. They have offices in New York, Chicago, Denver, and Nashville. So clients include titles like from the big five publishers, the Simon & Schusters, the Penguins, and lots of boutique publishers and people like you and me who have small presses and are out there, though, who want to be seriously successful. Her clients include a variety of launches, very strong placement on national television, radio, and print, as well as online. So with that, Julie, welcome to Author U, your guide to book publishing.
Thank you so much, Dr. Briles, for having me. I'm really honored to be here today.
Well, we'll have some fun. I love to just dive into things. And I guess the first question I'm going to have for you is, what's new in publicity? What works and what's not working today, especially for the independent and self-published authors?
Well, what's working today is looking at publicity as a marathon, not a sprint. And
yes.
What's not working is to feel like once you've written your book, then you're finished. Really, as horrible as it sounds, the easy part is getting the book written. The tough part for a lot of authors, because they have an intellectual curiosity, they tend to spend a lot of time thinking on their own. The tough part is turning around then and starting the business of promoting themselves, making themselves a brand, their books a brand. And there are a lot more authors today that are straddling and going back and forth between traditional publishing and independent publishing. And I think that that's an interesting trend. And starting in 2014, the big five publishers have leveled the playing field in an interesting way by releasing a lot of their mid-list titles as ebooks, which the main platform for ebooks is Amazon and Kindle, and there are other platforms, but this is where most people get their books. Well, for the average reader, they're not keeping up with what imprint goes with which publisher. I mean, Penguin Random House has 250 imprints alone. So when they go on Kindle, they're looking for a good read. then they now are not as able to be able to tell what is indie published and what is traditionally published. And that, I think, is a real positive and really levels the playing field. If the book takes off, then the publisher has decided that they will release the book in soft cover, but it gives indie published authors, I think, the same platform and the same distribution stream that traditional publishers have now, and I think that that's really exciting.
Well, that is exciting, and I mean, I've said that for a long time. So that number one, that this is a marathon. There's no sprint in here at all. And then the other side of that is that I don't know anyone, Julie, who has said, "Oh, isn't this another fabulous title from Random House?" it's a, oh, glory be, let's go rush to the store and buy the next title from Random, Penguin, Simon & Schuster, fill in the blank. What they do is they're looking for titles that beckon and call out to them. They're looking for authors who they know and they trust and they enjoy. They're looking for authors who solve problems for something that they have or can provide the entertainment. That's what they're looking for first and foremost. So it really does go back to they've got to have a really hooking title, and they've got to have a professional looking cover, because those are the grabbers. Would you agree?
I completely agree, and I have to say that your clients and the people that work with your company have some of the best covers out there today, I think, and
nice.
I really believe that, and as it really is true, that old adage that a book is judged by its cover is more true today than ever.
Yeah, I think that we go over that so many times. I can't tell you an author view. Oh, it's unbelievable. All right, so if you're going out and I guess let's talk about covers a little bit, because that's what you're going to look at when someone is soliciting your services. Is there a trend that's going on in covers right now that listeners should be tuned into?
Well, I encourage authors to look at comps in their genre, because in some genres, photographs are really the thing. In others, illustration can be, or artwork can be, different fonts. They kind of come and go, and we've worked with a number of publishing houses that will come up with what they believe to be a fantastic cover. They'll go to sell it to the Barnes & Noble buyers, and they'll ask for a redo, and so a book cover gets changed midstream. And we have done that. We'll work with authors that come to us sometimes with a book cover that just it doesn't look professional, or it doesn't look like what a reader is used to looking at as far as a book cover goes. And that's another thing that I think your company does very well, is that you have high standards for that. And we believe that you don't have your aunt create the book cover artwork. You go out and you get a professional to do that. And one of the best ways to do that is to have a consultant that works with you who really knows the business, because I think that so many people who self-publish or indie publish are experts in other fields and in other businesses, but they're having to learn a whole new business that has a lot of history to it. And so it's really smart to really hone in and not choose what's your favorite book cover, but what's the book cover that's going to bring somebody in and make them want to know about your book. One of the things that we found in working with authors with their book covers is that many want the book cover to reflect what the story is, but that's really not the point of the book cover. The book cover is to entice someone to buy the book and read the book. And so you don't have to have the story told by the cover, which is kind of counterintuitive, but that's one of the things that we struggle with often with first-time authors.
Oh, yeah. I'll give you a great example of that. We had an author who was in one of our circles and mastermind groups who came in, and he said, well, but on my cover, I've got all the key elements. I've got the raven, and I've got the skull mountain, and I've got the beautiful babe, and I've got we had one over component, and you're looking at that. And then he kept saying to me, and I said, I'm not done with you. I'm not done with your part. I'm going to come back one more time, because we were getting ready to go to print, and he had just so dug his heels in. He said, but I did a focus group. So one more time, I said, okay, so now tell me, how many people you had in the focus group? He says, well, I had over 20 people. And I said, okay. And then I said, who was in the focus group? Then it fell apart very quickly. And well, my brother and my friend and my neighbor and my wife and none of those people count. There will count. But not for this case. The people who belong in your focus group are the people who are your buyers, the people who will be gravitating toward that kind of book and that kind of genre or that kind of need. That's who you need to get the feedback from. And once we got that grilled into him, it took, he left with a new cover. And what was interesting, it's now winning awards and it pops. And of course, he loves it because it has a fabulous simplicity to it, but this amazing elegance. And that's what's important. And it's a novel. It's his first novel. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's really important to all of you in the cover area to make sure you deal with someone who does this professionally, not just a graphic artist, not just, and you could be the graphic artist, and I'll probably tell you, you're the worst person to be designing your own cover. You're just too close to it. It's not that you shouldn't be having input and integrating it, but it's just too close. We see this all the time. I'm sure you do as well. I'm sure you do.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. So it's a real issue. All right. So with me is Julie Schoerke. We're talking about publicity. And when we come back, I want her to get into some of the challenges that the authors have, as well as some real tips on what to do as you get set up. I'm Judith Briles.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Is there a book in you or another? Author U will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at Author U and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Every picture tells a story. And it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Sellinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
With me today is Julie Schoerke, and we're talking publicity and how to get it, how to grow it, how to maximize it, how to use it, and how to monetize it. I mean, how do we convert this into, hopefully, book sales? Because this is what it's about. But there also could be some other strategies. There could be, for example, and I've had a lot of authors when I ask them the question, what is success to you? For some, it is selling a truckload of books. For others, it's being positioned as an expert, and I can, so you're on media or you're hired as a speaker. I can tell you what success was for my youngest client at the time, who came in my office when she was 15 years old. And after we had the book discussion, and what Vivian and her mother came in was to maybe they could come up with a little book that they could create to position Vivian as she went forward to apply for college. So it would act literally as a tipping point. But of course, they were clueless. They had no idea what Vivian was going to write about. So after I spent some time with her, and I came up with a few ideas. And then when I said, well, here's kind of what the costs are going to be with all the people involved and my costs, and was Mom willing to pay for it? Mom was willing to pay for it. So I just said, you know what? You just send a check every month, and I am working just with Vivian from now on. And she learned how to do national surveys. She learned how to do interviews. And she created a book called Behind Closed Doors, about teens, for teens, by teens. And it is and I learned things too, but it was a good book, is a good book. And was it the tipping point? Yes, it was. Vivian landed a 4-year, $45,000 a year full ride scholarship at NYU. So everyone has different definitions of success. Julie, when you have an author come into you, because I have two questions here. Are there key questions an author who is contemplating engaging a publicist should be asking? And are there questions you ask of an author to see if it's a right fit?
Yes, and that's a really good point, because you live with your publicist for a good long time after the book comes out, and so it's important for you to find a good fit and somebody that you're comfortable with, and someone that works the same way that you do. We happen to work in a similar way that you're talking about, where you talk to the author to figure out what is their goal. And I have to say, we've worked with more than 200 authors, and not one author has had exactly the same goal as another one, as weird as that sounds, because you would think that it would just be sell as many books as possible, but everybody has a different goal and everybody has a different way of wanting to get there. And one of the things about publicity that I've found is there's not one way to get to the finish line. I think of publicists as sort of we're farmers that have cultivated land and fertilize land and we throw seeds out, and we know that some of them are going to grow, but we don't know which ones are going to grow and, become the Jack and the Beanstalk, big, tall things. And it's difficult to know that, so we like to try to do several different things. But when an author comes to us and says, I really, really, really don't like doing X, Y, or Z. I really don't like doing social media. I'll say, well, would you try one piece of social media, and we can just focus on that, and then let's let go of everything else. And if you really like to do personal appearances, then we'll focus on that. And we've had all of our authors do television, and some of our authors have been nervous about it, but I really, really encourage them to try to do television and radio. And we're very lucky. Our team is made up of former journalists, and so it's kind of peer-to-peer solicitation when we are pitching our authors, because it's journalists talking to other journalists, understanding what the hooks need to be. And I try to spend about an hour on the telephone with an author who's looking for a publicist and get a sense of who they are, what their family life is like, what their business life is like, what their goals are, where they live, what kind of contacts they have, and that determines a lot of the kind of personal publicity campaign that I put together for them. We don't really have a list of like an a la carte menu where people can choose, well, I want to have 3 of these and 2 of these. I prefer to help authors, especially first time through, figure out what probably is going to work the best for them. And then we get into the campaign, and I look at authors. We like to work with authors who, of course, number one, have a great book, and we read the books before we represent the author and decide, is this a book that we can really get behind? Can we get excited about it? If we can, we want to do that. If we don't feel like we can get as excited about it as another publicity firm, then we encourage them to find a publicity firm that really can get excited about it, because you deserve that with your book. You deserve to have somebody who can say, I stayed up all night reading this book, or, this person is a real expert, and this is the definitive information that you need if this is the topic that you're interested in when we're pitching. So I like to get a sense of the author, and then I think that authors should ask publicists some tough questions and do research on their own. I think that they should. One of the things I encourage people that I talk to do is to interview several publicists, not just to interview one and go with one. Even if we're the first people, I say, talk to a couple. There may be other things that come up when you talk to other publicists that you may decide to come back to us and ask us about, or you may realize that there's another publicist who you fit better with, and I want you, it's most important to me that you have the best fit. But one of the ways that you can do research is that you can get on the publicist's website and look to see which books they have represented, and then Google those books and see, is there a presence on the internet about those books? If there is, then the publicist is doing their job. If there isn't, then they aren't doing their job. And one of the ways, I come from a not-for-profit background. 20 years ago, I was in not-for-profit management, and we were held to accountability standards. And in publicity, it's sometimes difficult because it seems like smoke and mirrors. So we create a publicity proposal that then turns into the action plan that says, first of all, we'll create your electronic press kit. Next, we'll come up with the media list, and you approve each piece of this. And we go through and we come up with the whole campaign. But then when somebody signs with us, then we want to be held accountable for what we've said we're going to do in the contract. And so we send that action plan back to them at the end of each month with bullet points showing them what we've done under each category of what we said we would do. And we give them updates on that. And I think it's important when you sign up with a publicist to find out what is their method of accountability.
Mm-hmm. Because one of the things, I have said it many times, Julie, is that publicity can be the money pit, because there are no guarantees. You never know what's going to come in. I remember Years ago, I was a spokesperson for a company, and 9/11 hit. And I remember going to them saying, I really recommend that you defer this campaign for at least 3 months. It doesn't matter how clever we are, how good we are, how important our message is. It will be erased because this is the only thing in the air right now. And it was hard. I mean, they lightened it up, but they kept going forward because thinking that people needed another life. And I said, they made a mistake. I think that they could have been far more effective if they had pushed it into the new year versus trying to do anything in the fall of when September 11th hit.
Yes, that makes sense. We represented a book that I thought was going to really, really take off. It was done by a university press. Great topic, real experts. It was about Abu Ghraib, and when it came down to it, we had a 6-month campaign set up, and 6 weeks into it, I went back to the authors and said, despite the fact that you know more about this topic than anybody on earth, and despite the fact that this is the definitive book on this topic, America doesn't want to hear about how we messed up, and we can't get you the publicity that this book deserves because the media doesn't want to talk about it. And so I stopped the campaign. And they were really surprised because they said, well, we've spent a lot of money in working on marketing this book, and you're the first person who said, stop, don't pay me anymore. But it's really important that if something's not working or something doesn't hit, that you're working with professionals who are honest about it and want the best thing for you.
Mm-hmm. And that whole thing about fitting is critical. And going back to all of that, it's finding the fit. So when we come back after this break, I would love to have you identify some tips on how a fiction book can really gather up some publicity, because that's one of the myths out there, that if you write fiction, there's no way you can get publicity. Unless you're Dan Brown or, one of those kind of names. So when we come back, can we hit on that?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So with me is Julie Schoerke. It's Author You, Your Guide to Book Publishing. I'm Judith Briles. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing with Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, Denver, Colorado is my home base, and summer has finally arrived, although I think I will tell everyone, here we are in June. The ski season is still going on. They extended it to June 22nd because we actually had 400 inches of snow up in the mountains. So they are taking advantage of it. But if snow's not your thing, how about coming to Denver in August and spending 2 days with me? I do Judith Briles Unplug, where we will deep dive into full strategic plans from crowdfunding to creating a speech that you can really make money on, to what's going on in publishing, and to a variety of other things. 2 solid days. Judith Briles Unplugged. All you have to do is go into my website, thebookshepherd.com, click on events. All the details are there. Right now you can save $100 off. All your meals and workbooks are included. Okay, Julie, let's talk about how do you hook and create a campaign that will get the media's attention with fiction? Because one of these beliefs out here is you can't get publicity with fiction. I don't believe that. Do you?
No, I don't believe that either. In fact, all of our fiction authors have been featured on television programs, and there's always a hook, and there's always an interesting story, and that's one of the things that we do as former journalists, is dig in and figure out what's the backstory that makes this interesting. It could be a hook with the book. It could be that the book is in a hot genre right now. It could be that the author can discuss fan fiction of a famous book versus what their book is about. There are just all kinds of topics, and usually we have several hooks. And after you're finished writing your book, start thinking about what are your hooks. And we've done several books on that are fiction about sex trafficking and child abuse or sexual abuse, and those, even though it's fiction, we've been able to get a lot of traction for the media because those are topics that the authors can address and are passionate about.
And often, I would suspect that let's use sex trafficking, and of course it's all over the news again right now, but that it's not something that an author just drops a line in because it's hot right now as a topic. But they really have done some research in, and they know about it.
That's very, very true. And one of the things that we find, and an author can do the same thing, is we track what's going on Twitter with hashtags. The hashtags are really important because you can figure out what are the trending topics. And a lot of times when we find that there's a hashtag that is attached to a subject matter that is hot for one of our authors, then we're able to contact the journalists who are putting a lot of that information out on Twitter, and then in real time get interviews through traditional media with those journalists on that topic, because we've got an expert in the topic, even if even if the book is fiction, like you said, they've done a lot of research.
Mm-hmm. And so what they do is they go in and they find the hashtags and just follow that to see if anything catches their eye. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, yeah, we will put hashtags, but we also look for hashtags that are trending. So if, for example, going back to the sex trafficking, we had 3 books at once about that, all from completely different perspectives. We've got 2 books right now on homelessness, and when we look at the hashtags, homelessness, sex trafficking, Super Bowl has to do with sex trafficking oftentimes, then we will follow up with the journalists and the media outlets that are focusing on that. Yeah. So the authors can do that, and then we can do that, and then we put out the hashtags when we note something about one of our books. We put hashtags that would be of interest to people who are following that topic.
So Julie, this is what I heard you say, and you correct me if I'm wrong or right. No, wrong. I guess right. You don't have to. But if you are noticing, if I was a do-it-yourselfer, or I have someone who's a professional, that the hashtags that would be related to my topic, that if someone is out there and writing on it, what you would do, or I should do, is track down that person and direct my energy and pitch to them directly that they might hook up something that would tie in me. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Aha. Okay. All right. So there's your hot tip, everyone, that make sure that you use hashtags. You find the trending hashtags that are connected, related to your book. And then if you're a DIY, you reach out and let that journalist, that writer know that you're out here and offer to be a resource for them. Send them your book, or if you're using a publicist, certainly bring them into the fold too. So that's a great idea, Julie. Great idea. What about, since I mentioned the DIY group, what about the people who say, I really can't afford $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $3,000, whatever it costs in a campaign that's going on? What are some of the things that someone who is starting with baby steps should be doing when they have, or before they have, their book in hand?
Sure. For do-it-yourselfers, I really encourage you to. I've heard you mention, Judith, before, that a website is your calling card, but also for an author, their book is the calling card. And I would invest, if you got a few extra dollars, I would invest in extra copies of the book and get that book out in the hands of tastemakers as much as possible. Buy up copies of your own book and get them in the hands of people that you think will be talking about your book. And also go out and spend time getting to know your local librarians, your local bookstore people. Ask your friends and family. Start collecting email addresses and send out an email blast right before your book comes out and say, if you've ever wanted to do anything for me in your life, this is the moment to do it. Please buy my book on the date that it comes out, and please write a review on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Goodreads, and please encourage your friends who are in book clubs to read my book. And really, use your network of people as much as possible. And the other thing that sounds obvious but is not necessarily, is be nice to everybody. When you're an author, a new author, don't post reviews that are negative. Don't say negative things about books on social media. Be really, really nice to everybody that you can, because that will come back to you in a big way. We have several, we work with really nice authors, but Jenny Milchman goes out of her way. She's been on a 9-month book tour. She's starting a new one for her new book, and she makes sure that at the end of every day she posts something wonderful about the people that she's met that day throughout the country. And that really comes back to her. There are thousands of fans around the country that would do anything for Jenny, because she goes out of her way to be nice to them. And bookstores love her as well. Sandra Brannon is the same way, and she's an indie published author of the Liv Bergen mystery series. And she really, really makes a point to to be nice and to give back. And so remember that we've represented 2 authors who were not nice, and we got into the campaigns, and unfortunately we had to let them go because they were not nice to other people. They did not play nicely in the sandbox, and it didn't make sense for them to continue on with publicity.
Well, I know it seems like common sense, but people do have to be reminded that they have to play nice in the sandbox. What you give is what you get. And it really does come back to you in a variety of ways. And I have to tell you, I have posted negative comments, but I don't do it with, I actually go after the big boys who have been out there that they get tired and limp, and you know that they've got ghost writers in and they're no longer writing their own books. You know,
right.
I'm talking about traditional publishers, and John Grisham I've gone after a couple of times, but that just because it's mediocre, it's a disappointment to me when I come across a book that I used to buy. There's a classic example, whether it's a Dan Brown, a John Brown. I used to read Elizabeth George all the time. That their books became boring, cookie color. It's just mundane, and that's a disappointment to me. The excitement is gone, and they either you retire or you step up your game, or you take a sabbatical and come back with new juice. All of us need to remember that, by the way, because if you're pumping out a lot of work, it is easy to become just let it slide a little bit. You keep rehashing the same thing over and over again, and you've got to find something to juice it up. I know that they say there's only so many plots, and that's true, but it's your characters that drive it for our fiction writers. It's your characters that really bring things soaring alive. And, they can get into all kinds of deep doo-doo. So you need to remember that. Always remember that. All right. We've got 1 minute to our break. Another quick tip.
Another tip would be to engage on social media. And people say, I don't know how to find followers or how to get followers. And really think of it as going to a party and talking to people. You don't want to throw up on them saying, buy my book, buy my book. Go in and look and find other authors who are at the same stage that you are, and connect with them on Twitter and Facebook, and retweet what they say, reply to what they're posting. Connect with bookstores around the country and pay attention to what they're saying. Just participate in the dialogue of social media. Don't just get on there to try to hammer away at your message. You should only post one thing about your book out of every 9 posts that you have at the most, because you want to be a part of the community. You don't want to be, the town crier.
All right, and we'll come back to that, because I actually think I tell people it's more like 16 to 18 other people before you say that you. But we'll be right back. Julie Schoerke is my guest for talking with me.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Let's do some quick recapping. One of the things that Julie Schoerke said from JKS Communications is that make sure you use hashtags, that you use them within your tweets, within your Facebook, within your Google+, within your Pinterest, wherever you're out there, use them. Find out what the trending hashtags are, and specifically what in your genre, and that if you're out there, make sure that you contact the reporter or the people who are out there talking about it and offer yourself not only as a resource, but let them know about your own book, because they may want to be citing you and it, which is a huge, huge home run. Very important. The other thing is social media. It is the town hall. A lot of you have heard me say this a gazillion times. It's the town hall of book marketing today. If you're not on it or active in it, get over it and do it. It's as simple as that. So start following the top influencers. If you don't know who they are, Google them. Top influencers in blah, blah, blah. Follow their blog. Follow their tweets. Follow their Facebook, wherever they are. They may not be hanging out everywhere. Follow where they are, and then follow who follows them, because guess what? They follow you back. You've got to start building the crowd. One of the things that Julie and I were talking about off the air was a lot of media will not book you on their radio or television show unless, and that includes internet show radio, unless you have a following yourself. So start building that pronto. And you want to add anything to that, Julie?
Well, and I would say let your personality come through and do some fun things. One of our authors sent us T-shirts for the whole team, but he ordered them in children's sizes, and they didn't fit us. But I pulled one on, and I took a picture of it, and it was just funny because it was a too small T-shirt, but it had the cover of the book, and that tweet went viral, and it was just a tongue-in-cheek funny thing, but it ended up being fun. And so let your personality come through, and don't be afraid to do something funny or to post interesting things that you've learned about in the book industry. Just be a part of the community and talk about, anything that you find that you've read, some little morsel, just post it out there and watch it go viral.
And viral is fun when it starts. And of course, you help move it viral. You let people know and you share that image and you move it around. Julie, let's talk about quickly bookstores, on how to connect with them and maybe some inside tips on how to develop that relationship so they become a roaring fan of yours.
Oh, that's good. Our company, JKS Communications, is a huge proponent of the independent bookstore. We believe that there are no greater influencers than people who can hand sell a book. And my daughter worked at the bookstall in Winnetka, Illinois, a couple of years ago, and when we lived in Chicago, and we were starting up our offices there, and the people were very generous at the bookstore and let me go behind the scenes to see what it was like to be a bookstore and to be pummeled with, there are 3 million books a year published and hundreds of thousands of advanced reader copies come out, and they let me go behind the scenes and see how it all worked from their perspective. And one of the things that I thought was fascinating was that at that bookstore and other bookstores that are considered the best bookstores in the country, the people who work at those bookstores really read the books. And if they get behind a book, one bookseller in one bookstore can sell up to 400 copies of one title a month. Well, if you have several independent bookstores who are behind your book, you can turn that into a bestseller. One of the things, though, that you need to understand is that Amazon is doing everything in its power to kill the independent bookstore by creating a loss leader in books. And the books actually on Amazon you pay less for the books than they actually cost. And so independent bookstores are not wild about Amazon. And Amazon has a division called Create Space. And you don't want your book to say Create Space anywhere in it, because that's not supportive of the independent bookstores. You come up with your own LLC or your own imprint, and even if you go through and the printing is done by Create Space, you need to not have the word Create Space anywhere in your book. When you go into a bookstore and you ask them to support you, you should be supporting them. When our authors do events in bookstores, we ask them to buy several gift cards ahead of time and give them out as gifts during their talk, if the first person who asks a question during the Q&A, or put a gift card under a seat, and everyone can look to see if they got the gift card. And that way, the bookstore you're supporting the bookstore financially as you're out and about. And I always say, if a bookstore has something for sale that you need to buy, don't buy it at a big box store. Buy it at the bookstore and support them because they're supporting you. That's really, really important. It's very symbiotic and key that authors support bookstores and bookstores support authors.
Mm-hmm. You know what I used to do? I'm in Denver. We have the Tattered Cover, which is a large and well-recognized bookstore. And I purposely, when I roll out a new book, I would often waive my speaking fees to come speak to their group, but I had a string attached. And the string attached is everyone who's there has to buy a book. Now, I could sell them from my cases of books. Better yet, I bought them all from the Tattered Cover. And yes, the Tattered Cover had to buy them from me, and they were discounted down. And then when the group bought them from them, because they were buying maybe 40 or 50 at a time, fill in the blank, that they got a slight discount. I made less money, but it was a community home run. And I think authors need to think, this is doing business, that if you're trying to develop relationships where you're moving books in masses, number one, even if they don't know you yet, maybe you've started this little campaign stealthily. You're not in the store, you're just doing it on the side, that they will start getting their attention all of a sudden. And so I'm going to loop back to a mutual client that Julie and I have by the name of Gail Mancini. And Gail, when she did her book launch, we sold, the first book launch, we sold like 290 books. Every sale was run through the Tattered Cover, even though the Tattered Cover was not there processing them. We processed them. Then they did a swap out of books, and she ran for several weeks as #1 in fiction with her book when she launched.
Well, Gail is very savvy, and her book is excellent. And you're right. That's a very good way to do it. And I don't know if we have time to get into the book scan aspect of it, but Tattered Cover is one of the best bookstores in the country. Also, and really outstanding independent bookstores report to BookScan, which is like Nielsen for TV. And you, as an author, you want your books to count. And if you buy your books and then sell them yourself, they're going through these BookScan. They're going to be picked up by BookScan because these savvy bookstores will report them. And then when your next book comes out, you have a track record, and there's a third-party validation that you have sold a certain number of books. And that's really important if you're going to build a long-term career.
Yes, and that's we're tying with the bookstore. So remember that. If your good game plan, we have about 2 minutes before we're done here, but if your game plan is to have a visibility and create a track record that you're known within a bookstore community and the independent, if your game plan, and this is a lot of your game plan, is to possibly resell your book to a major house, this is a strategy you need to engage now. So you have that track record. They can see, oh my God, they've sold. Because traditionally, and I've said this many times, the total book sales of an average New York mid-list book is not a heck of a lot. They're looking at roughly 5,000 books now, 3,000 the first year. If you can position that and start moving a lot of books through a store with your various outlets, whether it's speaking or other things that you're doing, you will get their attention. I'm going to guarantee it. And also, if you're running it through the bookstores, that you're going to be on there. Most of them have their own either internal bestseller list or they have a community. They report several bookstores in the community to report it to, like they do here in Colorado. That I'm telling you that the traditional publishers pay attention to the top independent bookstores' internal local bestseller lists.
Yes.
So,
I
all right.
agree.
Yeah, Julie, 1 more minute. Another tip or two before we sign off.
Okay, let's see. Well, I would say that work as hard as you can for the do-it-yourselfer. Even if you have to do everything you're on your own while you're still writing your next book, go ahead and do that. And even if you hire a publicity firm, the authors that we work with that are the most successful are the ones that are partners with us and the ones that understand that we may ask you to do something or any publicity firm will ask you to do something and you may think, is it really worth it? And yes, it can be. And a very quick story. I've got a friend who went to a bookstore. Only 2 people showed up for the event. He felt like it was a bust. He found out later that one of the 2 people was best friends with someone that was on the Pulitzer Prize committee, submitted his book having read it, and his book won it that year. Oh. There were only 2 people at that event. It was probably the best event he went to. Well,
that's a great way to end. So if you're only going to have 2 people, make sure that one of them counts. Here we go. All right. Thank you, Schoerke. JKScommunications.com, specializing with authors, independent blog tours, and all the other good things to get your book and you out there. Take care. We'll be back with you next week.
Thank you for being a part of your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.